The middle class itself is high income, but it also brings high debt. High income is good, but if your income is unstable, such as layoffs and cut wages, all of a sudden you may go from making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to tens of thousands of dollars a year. But once a spending habit is formed, it's hard to bring it down, especially now that many middle class people are highly indebted, with a mortgage of hundreds of thousands of dollars, a wife who doesn't work, and kids in private school. There's no way to save any of that money. In recent years, as China's economic situation has worsened and housing prices have plummeted, a group of people known as the new type of poor is growing rapidly in first-tier cities such as Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen. These people have a glamorous outward appearance, but are in fact heavily indebted and in dire financial straits. There are several typical characteristics of the new type of poor. Firstly, they own properties and cars in big cities. Secondly, they have little or no savings and almost no assets other than their houses and cars. Thirdly, their debts usually amount to hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars, and they need to pay off huge amounts of debt every month, even to the extent of being unable to make ends meet due to unstable incomes. This post-80s couple owns a house and a car in Beijing, but is also burdened with a lot of debt. The couple has 2 sons, and ostensibly the husband has a stable job and a carefree life. However, they haven't paid off their mortgage and are saddled with hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt. Their parents are too old to help with the children, so the financial burden of the family falls on the husband's shoulders alone. At their age, with an old man and young children, the helplessness and sorrows of life come with them, and anxiety and helplessness are inevitable. Seeing that their peers are well off and don't have to work hard to pay for their mortgages, the hostesses can only live carefully and economize as much as possible, hoping to pay off their debts as soon as possible and get rid of the financial pressure. Thinking back to before I bought a house, I never expected life would become so tight, the gap between ideal and reality making people feel helpless. Indeed, the financial pressure has been exacerbated by the unstable income brought about by the economic downturn in recent years. Mortgage and car loans have forced many people to compress their spending, lower their quality of life, and minimize even their daily entertainment and medical expenses. What does a young, unemployed post-90s couple in Shanghai with US $420,000 in debt do on weekends? To ease the stress of my job search, my husband took me away for the weekend. We got on our scooter and arrived at the mall near our house, and it was already lunchtime. It was the weekend and the mall was full of old people. I ordered myself a noodle dish. Since I'm unemployed and have no income right now, I just window shopped without buying. I try on a dress and it looks good, but I just look at it, I won't buy it. Shanghai is fast-paced, so fast that many people are afraid to stop. Once you stop, you will be afraid that if you lose your job for too long, you will not be able to find a job later. They are also afraid of what to do with their home loans if they have no income, more afraid of being the same age to compete down. In addition, in many big cities, many people with so-called stable jobs have become new types of poor. In Shanghai, many people who work for state-owned enterprises, institutions, and listed companies can scare you to death with their debts. Some of them make only a few $1,000s, but their monthly payment is over $7,000. Today, I have a client. I won't tell you what kind of organization. The Provident Fund plus subsidy is more than $800, which is higher than many people's salary, but the debt is actually as high as more than $270,000. A lot of people who borrowed in the first place just for the sake of convenience bought an equal interest loan, not realizing that it would be really stressful to repay so much every month. I found that many people's debts rolled up little by little from the first few $1,000s to tens of thousands of dollars now. At that time, even the mortgage interest rate did not care too much, neither knows exactly what the interest rate is. As a result, 1 year and 2 years have passed. I have done some calculations. I've been making money for years, but I have not left a penny in my hand, and I owe a lot of debt. This is the general status of those who have consulted me recently. Here's a piece of advice. Be cautious from your first loan. You need to know what the annual interest rate is and how much you're paying back a month. If you find that your expenses are chronically greater than your income, make sure you solve the problem before it's too late. Otherwise, you'll be in deeper and deeper trouble. It has also been observed by outsiders that the phenomenon of the middle class returning to poverty is also becoming more and more common. which means that many middle-class people and even quite a number of middle-aged people may be plunged into financial difficulties due to the pressure of debt. The wealth they have worked so hard to accumulate over the years may quickly disappear as a result, and the main reason for this lies in the heavy burden brought about by high debts, high costs, and high stress. If you have a high mortgage, let's not talk about other cities, but Beijing, Shanghai, Guangzhou, and Shenzhen are special cases. Buying a house with hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt on it, then your quality of life is definitely going to go down every month. Another word is high investment. The collective collapse of China's online lending platforms in 2018 was due to the fact that many people pursued high returns and felt that the financial products of large companies were stable and reliable, and as a result, they took the money and ran away. There's also the issue of children's education or some of their own consumption-related issues, which is in fact the problem of high consumption. For those who have children, we all hope that our sons and daughters will be successful and invest more in this area. If it were me, I would want to live a more emotional life, travel more, and do some other aspects of consumption. Such high consumption all of a sudden lets the middle class back to poverty, which is still a common social phenomenon. So it's said that a group like the middle class faces a lot of risks and challenges. Now, there are already a lot of middle class people who find that spending on their children's education is no longer affordable for them. Now, the middle class is no longer able to afford not their mortgages or car loans, but for their children's tuition fees. Recently, the media has reported the news of several international schools closing down, even including some well-known schools. For example, Orda Anda Noble School, which is known as one of the world's top aristocratic schools, has shut down its Beijing campus. In Shenzhen's Houda Academy is also facing closure because it owes millions of dollars in rent. Where once many parents desperately tried to apply to these international schools for their children, the dropout rate has become just as fast. Why have international schools lost their appeal? The reason is that times have changed. These schools have always been an expensive investment, with the basic tuition costing about $40,000 a year, plus all sorts of expensive extracurricular activities. There is also the cost of studying abroad, and this burden is even greater. Tuition and living expenses alone cost $70,000 to $140,000 per year, easily more than $700,000 over 4 years. But even so, the past investment was worth it at the time. With the investment of resources and the foreign degree, the children can choose state-owned enterprises or large companies at will when they return to China. The annual salary of millions of dollars is not a dream. The future is even brighter. However, middle-class families now find that the path they have carefully paved for their children has instead become a sliding scale of class. A typical example is circulating in parent circles. A Yale master's degree with a full award who put in thousands of resumes eventually found only a part-time job in tarot cards with a monthly salary of $417. Similar young people have set up a returnee waste recycling and mutual aid association. And the most frequently discussed question is, can my current salary earn back the cost of those years of studying abroad? The answer is almost always no. Some of them have struggled to find work, but earn less than $695 a month, which makes it difficult for them to live in a big city. This is a far cry from the future they expected when they studied abroad. One of the main reasons of this phenomenon is the devaluation of education. According to the 2022 Insight Report on international students returning to China to find jobs, the number of international students returning to home for employment has exceeded 1 million, an increase of 35% from the previous year. The number of college graduates in China is also rising year by year, with 11.79 million graduates in 2024, up 63% from a decade ago, setting a new record for the hardest year to find a job. Another analysis points out that wealth is equal to assets minus liabilities. Many middle-class people who use this formula to calculate their wealth will find that it's a negative. And what we need to know is that liabilities are fixed in the formula for wealth. For example, a 10 million liability will not be reduced by factors such as income and interest rate changes. $10 million is $10 million. It does not decline due to the changes in external conditions. In contrast, the value and valuation of income and assets may fall with market fluctuations. Assets change while liabilities remain stable. Therefore, if cash flow is not effectively managed to ensure the stability of assets, debt is likely to be the root cause of dragging down the middle class. It's also predicted that half of the middle class may face the risk of returning to poverty in the next 5 years. In addition, many of the post-70s are now becoming highly indebted.
上海的70后啊，90%都是负债的。
In Shanghai, 90% of the post-70s are in debt. Real life isn't what we think it is. In their 50s, with children and grandchildren, or already retired at home. This is the status of a very small percentage of the post-70s, most of whom are in debt. Look around you, are they all like this? Mortgage, car loan, and even a lot of small loans. Every day you have to work hard to raise your children. Because the children are not married and have to work hard to earn the money for the wedding house. It's so hard. At this age, don't ever go back to increasing your debt. Once you are unemployed and looking for another job, you can only go into some service industry or do some manual labor. If you want to do business, you can't compete with young people in terms of thinking or physical strength. In addition, China's property market has weakened in recent years, with housing prices in first-tier cities falling by nearly 30% and even more than 50% in other areas, which has caused the collapse of many families who took out high loans to buy homes.
这房价再这么跌下去啊，咱们昌平真的会有很多家庭啊要崩溃了。
If home prices continue to fall, many families in Chongping may actually face collapse. At least a quarter of the families of these villa owners in Chongping are now practically bankrupt. Their debts are higher than most people can imagine, and many of the families' debts have already exceeded their existing assets, and these people are struggling to make ends meet. Most of the reasons for this situation are because they purchased their homes in 2017 or 2018 when Beijing's housing prices were high. What's even scarier is that the number of foreclosed properties in Beijing is now increasing, ranging from ordinary homes costing hundreds of thousands of dollars to luxury homes costing millions of dollars.
有的甚至是把房子都卖了，都不够还钱的。
Outsiders have also observed that a large number of homes across China are now facing broken mortgages every day, and many people even have to choose part-time jobs such as delivery to increase their income in order to pay off their mortgage. The heavy pressure of repaying the mortgage every month is unbearable. Netizen Xiao Jiao said that he used to work in a monitoring company in Zhujiang New Town. After 6 years of hard work, he saved up money and got married and was called a successful man at the time. Because of the long-term rental, he had been watching the price of houses and saw that prices were rising. Under the influence of the observation that house prices will always go up, in 2021 he and his wife bought a 2-bedroom apartment with a total price of $464,600. And after the down payment, they also bought a car, which made their lives prosperous for a while. However, by 2024, the price of his neighborhood had fallen to $236,600, a loss of more than $222,700, almost equal to all the savings he had accumulated over the years of hard work. Even more unfortunately, due to the real estate industry recession, he was laid off from his company and was not compensated. However, the monthly mortgage of $1,800 still has to be paid on time. After being unemployed for 3 months, Xiao Jiao had no choice but to go for delivery, and the income generated from this job was not enough to cover the monthly payment, and he had to rely on his wife's part-time job to subsidize his living expenses. According to available data, there are currently about 140 million families carrying mortgages, which means that about 400 million people are under pressure to pay their mortgages. Under this pressure, many people, like being sold to the bank, are struggling to make a living through their daily mechanical efforts just to pay off the huge mortgage on time.